The crystal chandeliers of the Astor Grand Hotel ballroom cast prismatic shadows across Emma Taylor's simple navy dress as she slipped through the entrance, clutching her small purse like a shield. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a modest chignon, her makeup understated. Nothing like the glamorous peacocks who filled the charity gala with bright plumage and brighter laughter. 3 months ago, she would have entered this room on Robert Taylor's arm, introduced as just my wife to business associates who would immediately dismiss her with polite smiles before turning back to their important conversations. Tonight she entered alone, invisible in a different way. Across the room, Robert stood with his hand possessively placed on the small of Veronica Winter's back, his former assistant, now fiancée. His Italian suit fit his athletic frame perfectly, the Rolex on his wrist catching the light as he gestured, animatedly to Nicholas Sterling, real estate mogul and tonight's host. Veronica's crimson dress clung to every curve, her diamond earrings worth more than the car Emma now drove. Ms. Parker, a harried event coordinator, approached, tablet in hand. "Thank God you're here. Our scheduled performer cancelled last minute. You'll be on in an hour." Emma nodded, the name on her lips still feeling strange after 3 months. "I'll be ready." Robert's laugh carried across the room, the same laugh that once charmed her into believing she was special, before he explained during their divorce that she was too simple, too boring to keep his interest. "A man in my position needs someone exceptional," he had said while packing his things, as if her ordinariness was an offense against his ambition. Emma moved toward the backstage area, feeling Robert's sudden silence as he spotted her. His eyes narrowed in recognition, then widened in alarm. He whispered something to Veronica, whose head snapped up, perfect red lips parting in surprise. "What is she doing here?" Emma heard Veronica hiss as she passed nearby. Robert's jaw tightened. "I don't know, but she doesn't belong here. This is for actual successful people, not boring housewives." Emma kept walking, her steps measured and calm despite the earthquake inside her chest. Behind her steady gaze lay a truth none of them could see. Not yet. The backstage area buzzed with pre-show activity. Emma found a quiet corner to prepare, reviewing her music one last time. The door swung open, admitting Veronica's floral perfume before the woman herself appeared, 2 champagne flutes in hand. Emma. "What a surprise," Veronica purred, extending a glass. "I didn't realize you were performing tonight." Emma smiled, not reaching for the offered drink. "Hello, Veronica. You know, Robert and I were just saying how brave you are, putting yourself out there when you've always been so private." Veronica's smile tightened. "Though I'm not sure this crowd is really your audience." As if choreographed, Veronica's hand tilted, sending champagne cascading down Emma's dress. "Oh, I'm so clumsy." Her eyes gleamed with malicious triumph. Emma looked down at the spreading stain, then back up at Veronica's mock, horrified expression. Instead of panic, a curious calm settled over her. "No harm done," Emma said, reaching into her purse. "You should probably just go home," Veronica suggested sweetly. "No one would blame you." But Emma was already working, pulling out a small sewing kit, scissors, and what appeared to be a length of midnight blue fabric. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, cutting, pinning, and stitching with remarkable speed. The event coordinator returned, face falling at the sight of Emma's stained dress. "Oh no, should we cancel? We can't have—" "5 minutes," Emma replied without looking up, her needle flashing in the light. Veronica watched, her smirk fading as Emma worked. Within minutes, the wine stain had become the center of an asymmetrical design, the navy dress transformed by artful draping that made it look intentionally avant-garde and far more expensive than before. "How did you—" the coordinator gasped. Fashion. Design was my first career, Emma said simply, putting away her supplies, before I gave it up to be a wife. From the doorway, Robert's voice cut through the moment. Playing dress-up doesn't make you a designer, Emma. You took a community college course and made some throw pillows. Emma met his gaze evenly. You never did pay attention to what I actually did you, Robert? He flinched almost imperceptibly before recovering. Come on, Veronica, let's not waste our time. The real entertainment must be running late. Emma watched them go, the coordinator staring after them in confusion. That man is your ex-husband, Emma finished. Yes. Outside she could hear the charity auction beginning. Soon it would be her moment. 15 minutes before her performance. Emma walked toward the stage to check the setup, only to find technicians frantically working on the sound system. Sparking wires and disconnected cables lay exposed as Robert stood over them, arms crossed. Such a shame, he said loudly to Nicholas Sterling. The system was working perfectly until just now. Might have to cancel the musical portion of the evening. Nicholas ran a hand through his silver hair, brow furrowed with concern. This is a disaster. The auction items are one thing, but people expect entertainment at these prices. I suppose we could just play recorded music, Robert suggested, his eyes flicking toward Emma with barely concealed satisfaction. Emma stepped forward, setting her purse down decisively. May I? She asked one of the technicians, who grudgingly made space for her. Robert laughed. Emma, please. You could barely operate our microwave. But Emma was already examining the connections, her fingers tracing the wires with practiced familiarity. The main feed has been cross-wired, she explained to Nicholas, and someone's pulled the ground connection. The technician looked up in surprise. You're right. How did you... I've spent 3 months touring small venues, Emma replied, already rewiring the connections. You learn to solve your own technical issues, or you don't perform. Nicholas Sterling watched with newfound interest, his ice-blue eyes narrowing slightly. Known for his ruthless business tactics and emotional detachment, he rarely paid attention to the entertainment at his own events. But something about Emma's calm efficiency had caught his notice. You tour? Nicholas asked, his deep voice startling those nearby, unaccustomed to hearing him engage with anyone outside his immediate circle. Emma nodded without looking up from her work. Among other things. Robert stepped closer, his friendly facade slipping. Emma was always handy around the house, Mr. Sterling. One of her few qualities. Nicholas didn't acknowledge Robert, his attention fixed on Emma as she finished the repair, and tested the microphone. Perfect sound filled the ballroom. We could still do an acoustic set, Emma suggested to the event coordinator. It would actually suit the space better. Nicholas nodded once, decisively. Do it. Robert's face flushed red as Nicholas Sterling walked away without sparing him a glance. Veronica appeared at his elbow, sensing trouble. What's happening? She whispered. She's making a fool of herself, Robert replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Sterling is just being polite. Emma caught his words as she passed by. Don't worry, Robert, she said softly. I won't embarrass you for long. The auction concluded. To polite applause, and the event coordinator stepped up to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat tonight. Please welcome an extraordinary talent, Ms. Emma Parker. Emma took her place on stage, the spotlight illuminating her transformed dress and serene expression. A hush fell over the crowd, some curious, others merely polite, waiting for the background music to their conversations. Before she could begin, Robert's voice cut through the silence. That's not her real name! All eyes turned to him, standing now with Veronica tugging frantically at his sleeve. Her name is Emma Taylor. She's my ex-wife. His voice carried the practiced charm that had one over countless business associates. I just don't want her to mislead anyone here. She was a housewife, not a performer. Uncomfortable murmurs spread through the crowd. The truth is, Robert continued, emboldened by the attention, I left her because she was too simple, too boring. Nothing special at all. Now she's crashed this event, pretending to be something she's not. Emma stood motionless in the spotlight, a small figure against the grand backdrop of the stage. For a heartbeat, the old Emma, the invisible wife, the discarded woman, threatened to resurface. Then she smiled. Robert is right about one thing, she said, her voice clear and strong. Emma Taylor was his wife, but Emma Parker is who I became afterward. She nodded to the pianist, who began to play. The opening notes of a song familiar to everyone in the room filled the air, the chart-topping hit that had been playing on every radio station for months. Emma began to sing, her voice transforming the space, commanding absolute attention. It was the voice millions had heard but none had seen perform live, the mysterious Emma P., whose identity had been one of the music industry's best-kept secrets. Nicholas Sterling, standing at the back of the ballroom, felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest as he watched her. Known for his emotional detachment, he found himself captivated not just by her voice, but by the quiet strength that had been evident from their first interaction. Here was someone who had been underestimated and discarded, yet had transformed herself without losing her dignity, something he recognized from his own carefully hidden past. Robert's face drained of color as realization dawned. The nothing special wife he had discarded was Emma P., the reclusive singer-songwriter whose debut album had outsold his entire year's business profit, whose fashion line was now worn by celebrities, whose story of reinvention was admired by millions. The song built to its crescendo, Emma's voice soaring through the final refrain, lyrics about liberation, about walking away from someone who couldn't see your worth, about becoming the person you were always meant to be. When the final note faded, silence hung in the air for 3 heartbeats before the room erupted in thunderous applause. Emma stood in the spotlight, no longer invisible, no longer simple in anyone's eyes. The crowd surrounded Emma immediately after her performance. Business cards thrust toward her, social elites who had ignored her earlier, now desperate for her attention. Through the sea of admirers, she saw Robert pushing his way toward her, his face a mask of recalculation. Emma, that was incredible, he said, reaching for her hand. I always knew you had potential. I was just trying to push you to find it. Emma gently withdrew her hand from his grasp. That's not how I remember it. People change, Emma. I've changed, Robert insisted, lowering his voice. Seeing you tonight, hearing what you've become, it's made me realize what I threw away. You didn't leave me because I was too simple, Emma replied calmly. I left you because you were too shallow to see beyond appearances. Veronica appeared at Robert's side, her smile brittle. Emma, darling, we simply must catch up. Perhaps you'd like to join us for dinner next week? Before Emma could respond, a deep voice interrupted. Ms. Parker has prior commitments. Nicholas Sterling stood beside her, his imposing presence creating an immediate circle of space around them. Unlike earlier, when his eyes had been coldly assessing, they now held something warmer, more human. Mr. Sterling, Emma acknowledged, with a slight smile. Nicholas, he corrected, offering his arm. I believe we have matters to discuss. Robert stepped forward. Emma and I were just reconnecting. No, we weren't, Emma said firmly. We were saying goodbye. She placed her hand on Nicholas's offered arm, feeling the solid strength beneath his impeccable suit. As they walked away, she heard Veronica's hissed accusation behind them. You told me she was nothing, and Robert's stammered response. Nicholas led her to a quiet corner of the ballroom. "You didn't mention you were Emma P. You didn't ask," she replied. "Most people make assumptions based on what they see." "I'm not most people," Nicholas said, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. "Though I admit I underestimated you at first. It won't happen again." Emma studied his face, handsome, reserved, carrying the weight of his own history. "Why should there be an again?" "Because I'd like to know the woman behind both Emma Taylor and Emma Parker, the real one." As they talked, Emma discovered that Nicholas wasn't the cold billionaire everyone feared. Behind the formidable facade was a man who recognized genuine talent and integrity, qualities he'd spent a lifetime searching for in both business and his personal life. "People think I'm heartless," he told her as they shared a quiet moment on the balcony. "The truth is, I'm just selective about where I invest my emotions." "And you're considering investing them in me?" Emma asked, a smile playing at her lips. Nicholas held her gaze steadily. "I never make impulsive investments, Emma, but I recognize value when I see it, even when others miss it completely." For the first time in years, Emma felt truly seen. 6 months later, society columns buzzed with the news of Nicholas Sterling's engagement to Emma Parker, the whirlwind romance between the cold-blooded billionaire and the singer who had melted his heart. The headlines couldn't capture the private moments that had led to this public announcement: quiet evenings discussing music and architecture, weekends where Nicholas attended her concerts incognito, late-night conversations where they shared the scars that had shaped them. Their engagement party was held at the same Astor Grand Hotel where they had first met. Nicholas's idea, a rare sentimental gesture from a man known for his practicality. "Full circle," he whispered to her as they entered the ballroom, transformed now with thousands of white roses and crystal sculptures that caught the light like frozen music. Emma wore a gown of her own design, ivory silk that draped her body like water, moving with her as if it were alive. The gasps as she entered weren't just for her beauty, but for the quiet confidence she now wore as comfortably as her couture. Robert Taylor stood near the bar alone, his invitation a deliberate choice by Nicholas. "Everyone should witness when karma delivers justice," he had explained with the cool precision that had made him a business legend. Emma felt Robert's eyes on her as she moved through the crowd on Nicholas's arm. She no longer felt anything when she looked at him. Not anger, not hurt, not even satisfaction at his visible discomfort. He had become irrelevant to her story. When Nicholas clinked his glass to call for attention, the room fell silent. He wasn't a man who made speeches, and curiosity hung in the air. "Most of you know me as a businessman," he began, his deep voice carrying without effort. "Someone who deals in properties, in buildings, in things that can be measured and valued on spreadsheets." He turned to Emma, his typically stern expression softening visibly. "What you may not know is that I've spent my life searching for something that can't be quantified, something I found the moment Emma Parker walked into this very room 6 months ago." Whispers rippled through the crowd, Nicholas Sterling expressing emotion in public. "Some people," he continued, his gaze finding Robert in the crowd, "mistake simplicity for emptiness. They confuse quiet strength for blandness. They walk away from treasure because it doesn't glitter enough to satisfy their vanity." Robert's face flushed red as several heads turned toward him. "Their loss," Nicholas said simply, raising his glass to Emma, "has become my greatest gain." Later that evening, as the celebration continued around them, Robert finally approached. His Rolex was gone, his suit a little less crisp, the spark of confidence in his eyes dimmed. Veronica, Emma had heard, had left him for a tech billionaire 3 months earlier. "Congratulations," he said stiffly, eyes darting between Emma and Nicholas. "You've done well for yourself." Emma felt Nicholas's hand at her waist, supportive but not possessive. Unlike Robert, he had no need to mark his territory. "Thank you, Robert," she replied simply. "I just wanted to say," he began, then faltered. "I didn't see it. What you could become." "I was always this person," Emma corrected him gently. "You just never looked closely enough to notice." Robert nodded, swallowing hard. "I guess that's why he's a billionaire, and I'm still chasing my first million. He knows value when he sees it." "Among other things," Nicholas agreed, his tone making it clear the conversation was over. As Robert walked away, shoulders slumped in defeat, Emma felt the final piece of her past settle into place. She hadn't become exceptional to prove Robert wrong. She had simply stopped allowing his limitations to define her possibilities. "Ready to go home?" Nicholas asked, his fingers intertwining with hers. Emma nodded, savoring the word. Home. Not a place where she was expected to be small, but a space where she could be her full, complex self. Not a man who needed her to be invisible, but a partner who celebrated her brilliance. Outside, autumn leaves scattered in the wind, golden and free, no longer bound to the branches that had once defined them. Emma breathed in the crisp air, her hand secure in Nicholas's grip, her future wide open before her. The simple woman had found her voice, her strength, her equal, and in the end there was nothing simple about her at all.